For the thumbnail for this video, I'm going to use a great photo. It's a completely evil photo, the guy's expression, and it is, apologies to anyone Russian who's watching this or who knows the name properly. I'm going to try and pronounce it. Alexandra Karelin. Considered to be the greatest Greco-Roman wrestler of all time. I think he touched 130 kilograms. When he was born, he was like already 5 kilograms. He came out like a 5 kilogram baby. I think by the time he was 13, he was almost 80 kilograms. And he's put in this really intense training program, doing sambo, like the so-called Russian judo. And he was given this nickname. I think he won all but 2 of his fights, and just extraordinary man. I think later into politics. But at the time he was known as the Experiment, although he always denied that he was given anything naughty, steroids. But you wonder why he had the nickname the Experiment, especially like during the 80s in Russia. It wasn't exactly unknown. But he said it was just an iron hard training regime. He said no one trains as hard as I do, or very, very few. In their whole lifetime, they won't train once as I train every day. Like literally running through forests, carrying like tree trunks and stuff, the proper Arnold Schwarzenegger commando type movie stuff, and running up the stairs, blocks of flats, carrying a huge fridge freezer, and all sorts of things. It was standard training for him, and of course being instructed in the art of Greco-Roman wrestling and sambo and judo and whatever else wrestling arts. But the fact was, he was very big and he was very strong. And this kind of is the point of the video. I've seen a few things recently, and I've just come across this quote related to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I can't even. Whoever said it made this quote. Their name's in a funny font, which I can't even read, but I don't think it's on the Gracies. But Jiu Jitsu is a gentle art. It's the art where a small man or woman is going to prove to you, no matter how strong you are, no matter how mad you get, that you're going to have to accept defeat. That's what Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is. With full respect to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and this gentleman, I'm sure he could tie me up in knots in seconds. I'm not disputing that in a second. But that comment is crap. Size and strength matter loads. I'm tired of hearing all the time this thing that there's some magic art. It's this kind of bullshido thing that you'll learn some magic art. Sure, you can get someone who's big, who's never done any training in their life. They may not be that way minded. So if someone knows what they're doing and they've been training for a while and they're smaller, they'll be able to tie that person up in knots. If the bigger person gets instructed in the art, well, they do actually get a bit aerated, shall we say. They get mad. They've got a lot of stuff that's already in them. It's already there. And they're going to break that out. It's an unfortunate, one of just the cold hard certainties of life, along with death, taxes, whatever, smoking being bad for you and the sun rises in the east. Size and strength matter loads, even if you've never done a day's training in your life. I've got 2 experiences of this, one related to me directly and one from a mate of mine I've just heard recently. The first one I had was doing judo in England, and this guy came across from Romania, Adrian, nice guy, big and strong. He'd been a farm labourer and he came over to get some sort of work in England, in London, where I was at the time. It's about 15 years ago. And it was just embarrassing. It was just mullering proper black belts, second dans, third dans. One guy got one second dan. They had a massive beef. This guy ended up picking up a chair and sitting across the room. And he said the fucking guy's trying to nut me and all sorts. And eventually, they made up. But eventually the teacher just quickly taught them a few proper moves, Kesagatami and, Sotogari, or these basic things, just so he could stick a blue belt on him, just bumped him up. Because he was just so big. So he said, right, just learn some moves and throws in it when you're as a white belt and you're hammering black belts. Or I was a brown belts. Not I'm anything special, but some of these black belts were proper big guys again. And they'd always say to me, there was this weird thing if I did judo, they always said, don't use your strength. Or one guy because I used to they call it jigatai. I like locking up a lot. Jigatai, lock up of body. And it's very hard to do something with someone who's jigatied. They say, oh, don't lock your body up. It's like, you don't use strength, but if you lock up, you become incrementally stronger. It's a very good just general defense against someone trying to tie you in knots, basically. And it's like, oh, don't do that. You want to be smooth and relaxed. It's like, mate, I'm not going to make it easy for you. It doesn't work like that, in real life. You're not just going to obligingly lie there and let someone put some hold on you and something. And I have found in judo, and this is going over years in jiu-jitsu and stuff, is bigger guys, obviously the more you learn training, but the size and strength, again, it matters. It really does. Like the second account anyway, but this is from a mate of mine recently. This is in Japan. He's a mate of mine, English mate, lives in Nagoya, Japan, and he said this kind of guy we both know, called Paddy, an Irish bloke called Paddy. This isn't a joke, by the way, and I'm half Irish myself when it gets out of their pram about me being like snotty. But Paddy is big, and he'd never done a day's training in his life, but he's just big, and he's just big and he's strong. And he went to this training, and the teacher wanted to show some move on him. He said, the Japanese teacher, who's like a fifth dan, I think, and he went, I'll use the big guy to show how easy it is, like technique can overcome strength. Because in Japan, I've got to say, the student would kind of just let the teacher put it on. You see this all the time in Aikido. It's why Aikido gets a bum rush, and a lot of times quite rightly so. They'll let this sort of pretend magic, and this is Aikido, they'll do some pretend magic, which any resistance, especially from someone who's a bit strong or someone who knows what they're doing a little bit, it would never work. You see this all the time, and especially in Japan, where you never go against your sensei. So anyway, this Japanese teacher, judo teacher, I said, I think the fifth or sixth dan, and he got Paddy to show him, and they got into a proper tussle. Paddy's a really nice guy. He's not trying to show this bloke up, but he's not just going to roll over and say, okay, put it on. He's never done any training in his life. He's not a violent man or thing at all, but he's just, as I say, he's just very big and very strong. But he's just like, I'm not, I'm going to fight back. I've had a number of things, I've done this myself, where it's just, I'm not just going to passively submit to something without testing it. You want to road test it, drill it. It's the Jeff Thompson thing. A lot of martial arts is, it falls apart, as what's it like Jeff Thompson's famous quote, like a paper umbrella in a hurricane. It just doesn't work. You get someone who's 15 stone and has got the proper arseache about something, bye-bye technique a lot of the time. So Paddy, and this judo teacher, in the end, I think he managed to get some sort of lock on him, just about. But this judo teacher, he's been doing it for years, and he's fifth, sixth dan, like I say, and that was Paddy's first lesson. Now imagine Paddy does judo training intensively for just 6 months. It's going to be no contest. He's going to be knocking these fifth, sixth dans out, because he's got the size and the strength, and then he'll have a bit of technique to also know what he's doing. So it's not a complete hard and fast rule. There are exceptions to it. There are instances, and training, of course, is always going to work in your favour. But this it's almost verging in bullshido. This size and strength don't matter. And it's the Hollywood thing where the physically slight 9 stone, you see it a lot these days. I think it was an Iron Man, wasn't it? The woman goes in with Tony Stark's chauffeur, and he's fighting one guy for 5 minutes, and he just about wins, and he looks around, the woman's like got her hands on her hips, and there's all these men just lying flat out all around her. It's kind of verging on that. It's just not, it's not real life, and it's a silly trope, if that's the word, silly trope to keep trotting out, because it gives people I think it's dangerous. It gives people a false expectation of what they can do, and a lot of the time, your martial art does not work in real life. It might be helping your health and whatever, and doing lots of, you meet people, and it's good to have a hobby and blah blah blah, but in the ugly world of real confrontations and stuff, a lot of the time it won't stand up, and that's kind of the way it is. It's just an unfortunate truth of life. And then you bring it back to the title of this video, size and strength just matter loads.